thinking about how all aspects of agriculture are connected through a web, a network of entities who grow, enhance, exchange, distribute, and consume goods and services instead of a linear supply chain is why we are here today. Hello and welcome to Let's Talk. My name is Olujoke Mosako. My guest is Mr. Folasiji Bomi-Daniels, an architect and permaculture designer. He is also the founder of Capsule Group, and I'm sure that you want to learn more on agriculture and what it entails, but this time is a regenerative one. So please stay with us as we go on this ride. But before we continue on that note, I'd like to remind you to please subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on all of our social media platforms. Please stay with us. Thank you so much, Mr. Daniels, for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Now, what is regenerative agriculture?
All right. Regenerative agriculture is an approach or a land management system that focuses on the health of the whole ecosystem, from soil conservation to improving soil fertility, to improving water management, to improving the nutrients and general well-being of the land produce. Essentially, it's a way to approach farming or agriculture in a method that improves the life of the earth, the care for the people, and ensuring you get a very good, nutritious yield.
Now, why is it important? I mean, regenerative agriculture, why is it important?
All right, thank you very much for that question. You see, regenerative agriculture, like the name implies, is to regenerate, to ensure that as you take out of the earth, you also leave it in a constant state where it can improve your life. If we look at, there's a Kenyan proverb that says, take care of the earth, it was loaned to you by your grandchildren. The earth is the support system for life as we know it. And if we continue to practice the common method of agriculture, which we now call chemiculture, that's the use of chemicals, use of artificial materials, as it were, we are damaging the earth, and we have lost over 50% of topsoil in the last 100 years of farming. So topsoil that has been kept and sustaining us for years, we've lost it gradually because we have now not paid attention to regeneration in agriculture.
So it is very important. That means what we're doing today is actually a very good feat to educate people out there, especially people who don't know about this regenerative agriculture and the importance of what damage can be done to soil.
That's correct. That's very correct.
So how can regenerative agriculture or farming be practiced?
So there are different ways. For instance, you introduced me. One of my own core strengths is permaculture. Now, permaculture is a design thinking system that helps you look at your land or look at farming from a holistic point of view, in a sense where you can start small, but you can also scale gradually, and you think of the long-term benefits. So depending on whoever wants to come into the practice, you can come from wherever you are. If you're already a practicing farmer, I mean, it's good. All you need to learn are the simple systems of permaculture out there, where which you can integrate together as against having single line of crops. So what I encourage for people is that you can start small, you can start wherever you find yourself. Essentially, you can put in just a little effort in learning first. The first thing is you need to learn about these systems. And once you learn about them, you find that these systems are easy. We are not actually recreating systems. We are learning to cooperate with nature, such that you learn to eat organic, you learn to grow organic, and you learn to eat and live healthy lives. So to start, learn, then begin to practice in simple scales. It can be done in urban areas, for instance. It can be done on large scale rural areas. But I encourage everyone to start with learning. Thank you.
Now, is it very expensive to practice this form of farming?
You know, one of the principles of permaculture, which is a component of regenerative agriculture, is to use slow and small solutions. Another is to start small. Now, if you look at it, starting small, starting where you are, is inexpensive. Everyone has something. Everyone lives somewhere. So if you have something, you live somewhere, you can start with little or no cost. I mean, another principle of permaculture is to catch and store energy. For instance, if you have a roof, you can catch energy from there. You can make a roof garden out of that. You can harvest the rainwater and use it. So without having to literally buy anything, you can start from somewhere. If you cook food, you can get your raw food and get your seeds out of it and begin to produce simple vegetables that you can begin to cut down and on your expenses that way. So it is inexpensive, rather it is very sustainable to start.
Okay, we know that agriculture these days have gone from, the way it was to a more modernized kind of practice. And in America, there's no specific time for the way we have in Nigeria that, that this season is corn season, this season is rice season, that season is this. But here, all year round, you have everything, fruits and all of it, which of course we know that it's not actually being done. It's not being produced according to season, but it's chemical protected, or if I'm going to use that word. Now, do you think that all of these things, that the chemicals and everything that is being used to produce all of these things at this point in time is not damaging the soil?
Now, there are different forms of farming, and most times when you use these chemicals, they leave the soil degraded. So, and their continual use is the reason why we have lost a lot of topsoil. So, alternatives to this, there are different and newer technologies that ensure all year supply. For instance, aquaponics, greenhouse farming, different techniques, and they are very interesting because of the level of research that has gone into them. So we can't just say we should replace all of that immediately so that we don't create a food crisis. What we would rather encourage people is to, if you already have a system ongoing, as you begin to learn about regenerative agriculture and working with the earth and not against it, you will find that the earth is capable of feeding us, leaving a leftover for future generations. So what we'll recommend is for people to make use of alternative but natural. Now with permaculture, we encourage the growth of biodiversity. That is, one example is the use of guards. That's where you plant different plants together in a symbiotic manner, where, for instance, one of them is a nitrogen fixer. Nitrogen is one of the ingredients that the plants will need to thrive, which you will see people try to purchase in chemicals with NPK, the end there being nitrogen. So, but if you get a system together, in which case we call it GALD, where you can get a plant to fix nitrogen, another to prevent pests, you cut down on this cost. Now, the challenge with industrial chemiculture, that's the chemical use in agriculture, is that they just want to mass produce and they don't want to take the time to actually learn to cooperate with the earth. But for us to come to a place where we have a full balance, we begin to change and better against the climate change that we're experiencing, we need to do this, because one of the goals of generative agriculture is carbon sequestration. That is the reducing of carbon in the atmosphere, which chemiculture, that's a chemical in agriculture, keeps using and causes climate change as we have it. So this is the focus. This is where we need to get to right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Let's quickly go on this break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, the program is Let's Talk on DNT Work. And I've been speaking with Mr. Folasiji Bomi-Daniels. He is an architect and a permaculture designer, and also the founder of Capsule Group. The topic has been practicing regenerative agriculture. So for you who do not know what it is and what it entails, that's why we're here to educate you and enlighten you on things that you should know as you embark on this journey of farming, and while you're trying to get make something out of the soil, you should also think of how to protect the soil. Thank you so much, Mr. Daniels, for standing by.
Thank you for having me.
Now I understand that regenerative practices embrace abandoned territories beyond farming activities. How sustainable is agriculture, looking at it from this angle?
Agriculture, by nature's design, is designed to be sustainable. It is when man comes and imposes his will upon the way nature has done it that we begin to have degraded surfaces. Most of desert areas and desertification is occurring as a result of man's altering of natural cycles. Regenerative agriculture can actually provide solutions to this. For instance, there are studies that show that when you introduce animals, cattle, herds, sheep in a controlled grazing system, you can actually take lands that are being degraded and deforestation happening, and you can actually take them over the course of time into places that are similar to Eden, as it were, that lush, good green gardens. And this is very important for those of us here in Africa, specifically in Nigeria, to give an example, where we have what we call the farmer-herder crisis. By understanding and practicing the principles of regenerative agriculture, you can actually have a symbiotic relationship between when the farmer is producing and then off-season when the rains have stopped and the herds need to feed. Just invite the herds, let them feed on the leftovers. They would manure and prepare the ground. And that way, farmers that use that system do not need to get chemical inputs, and they produce all year round. So it's just about understanding the system and learning to work with nature with managed systems that work, basically.
Mm. Now, are there principles to regenerative agriculture?
Yes, they are. There are very few principles already implied in passing. One is to apply and use biodiversity. That's where you have different systems coming together, diverse crops, diverse natural habitat, then reducing chemical inputs, which we have alluded to, and then having an holistic approach where you combine in a symbiotic form, which we alluded to, also then ensuring that your soil health is kept. Now, when you now come to permaculture specifically as a type of regenerative agriculture, there are 12 principles. I mean, you could read up on them. I'll just share a little. One of them is to catch and store energy. That means when water flows into your land, for instance, in deserted areas that have been turned into desert, what happens is that water comes in and just goes off. But what permaculture does is to catch that water, to store that water and make it available for use in the off season. Another example is to always obtain a yield. I mean, if you go into agriculture, you want to eat, you want to sell, obtain a yield, use small and slow solutions. There are 12 very interesting principles. One is to observe and interact. When you get to land, do not just come and impose your own desire plan. First, understand what kind of soil is this. Take readings. What soil health do you continue to have? How can you grow this? And then you would apply all of this, apply self-regulation, obtain feedback. There are lots of principles to them, and time will fail us to go into details for all of them. I've just shared like 4 from permaculture here. There's still many more. One, use marginals, use edges. For instance, at every edge, it has been observed that there is always a thriving life happening there. So there are different ones basically, but that's just a few. Thank you.
Okay. Now, moving forward, having
Yes,
lifted this 4 principles, how can these principles be applied to stop climate change? You know, as we are right now, okay, let's talk about the wildfire that is ongoing in Canada. Even a part of US,
Yes.
US especially, is also
Yes.
experienced, the smoke is affecting the US air quality. Now,
Yes.
with this that you've mentioned, the principles, how can these principles be applied to stop climate change?
All right. So one of them that we talked about, one very important one, why is climate change happening? And that's because there's an emission of CO2, or basically carbon dioxide, or greenhouse gas, as it were. But you see, with regenerative agriculture and permaculture, one thing that happens is called carbon sequestration, where we take carbon from the atmosphere and store it back on the earth. Now, because we're not doing that at a large scale and we're emitting more gas, and that's why we're experiencing climate change. So by simply planting more, doing more of agroforestation, that's planting more forest trees, we are going to gain more and reduce the carbon. Basically tell you that plants breathe in carbon dioxide. Well, they literally don't breathe in, but they take it in as it were, and they give out oxygen. So the more plants you have, the more oxygen you're able to release to the atmosphere. Another one is silvopasture. Now, silvopasture, it looks like a big word, but it's simple. It's simply from silver and pastoral, Latin words that means animal and grazing. You understand? So when you bring in animals to graze, and they bring in their own ways. They help manure the earth. They help ensure that the earth is in good shape, and they can form barriers, living barriers that would have been there for forest fires to take off. By eating that up and putting in manure there, they will reduce the spread. They can reduce the spread of forest fires. So actually, agriculture and regenerative agriculture is the way to minimize this, to stop climate change. And this is the future. The challenge we've seen many times is a lot of industrialization that has gone on, and focus has neglected this. What we need to do is bring back these principles, bring back this way of life, and let's find a balance. We would reduce climate change. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Are there things that you think that people should know about this regenerative agriculture, and from your field, permaculture, and everything that agriculture entails, that even people are blindly practicing, which is not healthy or is healthy?
All right, beautiful, beautiful. So regenerative agriculture, permaculture, there are different fields, organic agriculture. One thing I'll recommend for people is that begin to ask questions. Where did your food come from? What kind of fruits are you eating? People just ask, oh, is it GMO? Is it not GMO? What kind of farming procedure produced this? Now, the general thought is that organically grown products are more expensive. Yes, this is true. But because it is more expensive, because we have fewer or limited number of people practicing it, if we get people to begin to invest into this and divest and begin to make a demand of government that let's eat healthy, let's ensure. So the more we are able to put out the knowledge there, for instance, in Africa, where I'm from, the age of people in agriculture is very alarming, high and alarming. So for instance, young people have the idea that agriculture is for the unemployed, the underemployed, and basically lazy people, and that is not fancy. But these methods of planting using greenhouses, permaculture, there are ways we can actually reintroduce agriculture to the youth. But for the general public, let them begin to ask questions. Let them begin to invest time and energy into what goes into their food, what goes into their meat, what goes into their processes essentially. Let's replace artificial products with natural. And you will see that we lead better lives. We would know that we're doing better in our generation to stop the damage to the earth and to the climate. Thank you.
Now, a quick digression. If I don't know if it's a digression, but I just
All
want
right.
to quickly chip this in, even as we round up. Now, WHO actually came up with a report that all the sweetness that has been added to most of the sodas, the gums that people chew, and all of those things are cancerous. They are cancerous. So, what can you say about that?
Okay. So for artificial sweeteners, I'll encourage, I've not read the reports, the WHO reports, but I encourage everyone listening to this or watching this to take a 7 day fast off artificial sweeteners and sugars. Just what that would do would be it will cause you to begin to ask questions and look on the packaging, and you begin to see the volume of sugar that we consume. Now, the ideal day for people to do this, or the number of days for people to do this rather, is 30 days. And when you try to do this, you begin to have withdrawal symptoms. You see that we're actually addicted to sugars. We have a lot of high sugar content in virtually all that we take. And an alternative to sugar is a plant called stevia. And stevia has been said to be between 30 to 200 times sweeter than sugar, and is a natural occurring plant. But you see, because there is a lot of money that has been pumped into natural sugars, people are encouraged to take that. So I encourage you, begin to ask questions. What are you consuming? What is it doing with your body? What is it doing to your body? What are the outcomes of your consumption like daily? And people that have taken the 30 days sugar fast, what they find is that they are healthier, stronger, and they're able to fight some of the effects of the sugar withdrawal symptoms after about 2 weeks. So it's a good practice for everyone. Pay attention to what you eat. I mean, we are what we eat. Our body literally feeds off of whatever comes into our system. And, for cancer treatment, one of the things they tell people that have cancer is stay off sugars. So it's a very good practice, to definitely stay off natural, artificial sugars and sweeteners generally. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your special and wonderful time. It's indeed it's
Thank
a
you.
nice experience talking to you about this. Thank you. And to you out there, thank you too for being part of the show. And I hope you've been able to learn something new, something different about having to preserve your soil. And like he said, understand what kind of soil you have, and then you apply all the regulations accordingly, and this can only be achieved if you are intentional. Until next time, when I come your way again with another exciting edition of Let's Talk, I remain Olujoke Musaku. Bye for now.